Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pineapple Podcast, where we discuss success mindset through real estate investing. Another beautiful special guest today, Adriana Ostapenko. She is your everyday girl that's doing amazing things in the real estate space. Adriana, welcome to the Pineapple Podcast.
Thanks, Mitch. I really appreciated being here. It's nice to see you again.
Wonderful. Well, today's conversation, it's going to be about what Adriana's model is in terms of investing. And just so you guys know, Adriana comes from a background of you and I being the everyday worker that just dabbled into real estate. Then she found her groove in terms of her strategy, her love, sorry. And then she just started to accelerate. And today she's doing amazing things, which we'll discuss in the show later today. So Adriana, give us a sense of, when did your journey really start with real estate?
Yeah, thanks. It is funny. I do come from Brazil. I immigrated at 13 years old to Canada. So,
Wow.
lived the immigrant life for a long time, didn't speak any English when we first got here. And ultimately, a lot of survival mode type of behavior that was happening for a long time, just figuring it out, learning the language, working hard.
Mhm.
My mom is a single mom. She brought the two of us here by herself. So we just went
Mhm.
through a lot of financial struggles and trying to make it and improve our lives. I, for the longest time, didn't really have any. I don't come from a family that invests. I didn't have any investing experience. We didn't have any real estate experience either. What did lead us to real estate is we got into the construction business. My husband is in the trades. So we have an interior renovations company over the last decade or so now. And that's really what opened our eyes at first to real estate. Was we started working with this couple that were doing high-end flips, and a little light bulb moment came into my mind of like, okay, well, it's possible not just to be hired to do the work, but actually, make profit and own beautiful homes like this. I do have a little bit of a system that I do things, and the first thing that I did was I sought out some education on the topic of real estate, and I landed at a really wonderful education company that started teaching me from scratch how to do this.
Beautiful. Well, look, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that is an amazing story. And I hear you completely. Like, you're from Brazil, I'm right next door. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, right? And same sort of thing. Coming into a new country, you're giving up your home, you're giving up what you grew up around. You're coming here with a hope and a promise, and bless this country for what they do, because they really do give people the opportunity to express their hard work and their desires by making goals achievable. So I love the fact that you're sharing that story. I think it's absolutely brilliant and good for your mom to make such a drastic a change, right? Because it is, she's giving up her security with her two babies and she's doing it all alone. So I'm sure many people here would understand exactly where you're coming from, because Canada, again, they're home to so many people in the world, right? With similar stories. But yeah, so you got into the business by let's say by just sort of naturally going that way, and then you started to educate yourself. So I love the fact that you said that, because educating yourself, aligning yourself with people in the space that's doing it, be it's an investment in you at the end of the day, right? So tell me, when you started investing on your own, like what opened up your eyes to the real estate? What were the things that jumped out at you like, oh my God, I didn't know this existed?
I guess my motivation for getting into it, at the time was really to understand how to get away from living paycheck to paycheck. Because we were doing okay.
Mhm.
Had the business. I had two tiny kids with me. I just had two babies, and we were doing okay. We had bought a house, a townhouse in Mississauga, but we were ultimately living paycheck to paycheck. It got to a point where my mom had some mental health issues and moved in with us.
Right.
Um, and now not only did I have my mom with me, I had the two kids, and I thought, hey, like we're hardly making it for ourselves. How can I I need to do something way beyond what I've been doing up until now to actually create some wealth for my family and change some financial legacy here. But I had no idea how to do that. Um, I was just in the process of searching when I sat down on a 3-day workshop to learn about real estate. There's something inside of me that just clicked. And I thought, hey, this I can do. I don't even know how I thought I could do it, but I'm like, I can do this. I just knew I could. It just clicked. It made sense to me. We were really in the construction industry, so that was a huge advantage that we had right off the bat.
Right.
And this is really what got us started was, hey, how do we do this? We learned the process of like, these are the steps. And then you have to jump in because, you know, there's only so much you can listen to and read about until you start doing it. And it's hand in hand education and an experience, right?
That's right, exactly. But you know, it's brilliant because what you're talking about here is mindset, mind shift, right? So I know I'm going to do it, I just don't know how. But you've put that goal inside of you, right? So now your subconscious and your conscious is working together in order to make that goal a reality. Obviously, it's going to take time, and you're going to have to push yourself out there in terms of doing things you've never done, learn new things, really be in a space where I'm going to embrace the changes, but I'm going to find people or communities that's going to help me get there. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of people who want to make this jump or this journey, they don't really realize. You can't do this alone. You really have to get into alignment with other people and spaces to really propel you in a significant way, right? People will have success, obviously, on their own. But as soon as you get around a community, as soon as you get around networking, then you really, not only are you doing it for yourself, you're bringing those people along for the journey as well, right? Because now you are able to do things, you can teach, you can show, but people can go along the journey as well and get involved with projects as well, right? So, just for me as a everyday person, I'm doing my 9 to 5. I really want to break away from that because you're right, 9 to 5 is great in the sense that it gets you experiences and networking, but it doesn't give you financial freedom. You're basically paycheck to paycheck, as millions and millions of people are. And so to break out, you have to take some chances to invest in yourself and then invest in a particular strategy. In our case, it's real estate. We love that. But people have done it in the stock market. They're doing it with Bitcoins. There's so many other avenues. They run businesses, so there's so much streams, but the idea is find one that you love and then go for it, right? And like for us, we could sit down and talk real estate all day, 4 ways to win, 5 ways to win, you take $1 million and you can buy something for $4 million. Like there's so many things that we've been able to learn, but I love the fact that you're sharing it. So once you came into the space, like, what were some of the strategies you started with, and where are you now in terms of the strategy that you really love?
Yeah, so great question. We started doing burrs. Ultimately, we would buy a property that needed a lot of work, or that we could convert into more units, and we would renovate it. So our very first move in real estate was duplexing our own house. I think that's a lot of people who start that way, and it's just house hacking in a way. In my case, it was a townhouse. We had a lot of difficulties to actually make it into a legal duplex. But I went straight in and I figured I'm going to learn this. I probably went back to the city maybe 9 times, just, ultimately arguing back and forth with them on the bylaws and what I could or could not do. And we were able to get through the process and finish the basement as a legal unit, duplex the house officially, and rent it out. So that was our very first move in real estate, and learning the process of permitting and working with the city and all of that. Soon after it was done, we actually sold that house, which was a big shock to our friends and family. we had just bought that townhouse maybe 3 years back, and I was so determined to, make it work that I'm like, I would like to take the capital out of this property and go put it towards real estate and invest and grow our wealth. We sold that house and went to rent, ended up renting a beautiful, much larger detached home for 4 years, and reinvested that money back into real estate, doing bursts. After that, we did mostly spend the next 3.5 years. We did 5 bursts. They were all, most of them were single family conversion to fourplexes, mostly in the Hamilton area. And these were full, like, guts, like really run down homes that needed life breathed into them again, and creating housing, additional housing.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant. I mean, that is one of the best strategies, I think, as well, for starting out, especially as you say, your husband is in the trades as well. So that, to me, that's aligning your strengths to the strategy, right? And then from there, you decided, is that the journey you're going to go on, or you found other strategies within real estate to jump into?
Yeah, so I mean, those 5 properties, they changed our lives. They really did, in every way possible. A lot to do with growth and mindset and personal growth in through that experience and learning. But also financially, they created the financial, legacy that I was hoping to get started on, as well as the cash flow. And with the BRRRR strategy, the beauty of it is you're able to create so much value that you can recover, if not all of it, most of your money back right away, so you could go do another one. And that's what we kept doing, a rinse and repeat system of, like, once we were done, we refinance, go do another one. By the end, we were doing 2 at a time, because we felt confident. We knew what we were doing. We were focusing on a specific area. We knew the strategy. We knew everything that we needed to have in place. By the time we were finalizing our last BRRRRs, I started feeling like, hey, this is a lot of work. I was doing everything from finding the deal to analyzing it, putting in the contracts, dealing with financials, legals, raising capital. Then we were doing, I was project managing them. Then I was property management them, and getting tenants involved and refinancing. And I thought, this is a lot of work. I don't love every part of this process either. Like, there's tasks here that I'm like, I'm glad to delegate to somebody else.
Right.
And I wanted to scale. I'm like, how do I scale beyond this? How do we do more? But somehow I do less. I wanted to do more. I wanted to scale, but do less. And that was a question. I set out with that intention, and I started a search process again of, like, okay, where is that? Where do I find that? The way my brain works there is I will go look for somebody that's doing things that I feel like I want to be doing. And I'll go start having conversations with them, because I want to understand, is this really what I think it is? Because, it looks like it is, but is it really? I want to know from a first-hand experience. Now, I've been blessed to create such an amazing network of investors and people around me. Right. I thought I was interested in getting to the multifamily space, commercial residential space, and buying apartment buildings. So I started reaching out to everybody that I knew at the time that owned or operated in the apartment building space, and found a really interesting common theme. I felt like most people that were in the apartment building space had been doing this for a long time. And I figured, hey, if veteran investors that have been investing for 15, 20 years are in the apartment building space, then I might as well start getting there now. I don't want to wait 10, 15 years to get there. I prefer to learn and understand the strategy now, and start implementing it right away.
Right. Okay. No, that's brilliant. That's absolutely beautiful. The commercial apartments, it's an interesting space in itself. So you fell in love with that strategy, and you said, okay, this is the strategy for me. I am going into the family space, buying the buildings. So what was your sort of first number of doors in terms of your first purchase or your first building?
Yeah, so my first multifamily building was a 7-unit BRRRR project. So we did value add on that one. And that was our very first one that we acquired. And it was a process of, like, after we did shift markets as well. That was another strategic move. And I had 2 reasons for doing that.
Okay.
One was, just numbers. So we're in the investment world, so numbers need to make sense.
100%.
Wherever we were investing or building those 5 burrs just weren't making sense anymore. And I'm like, okay, I want to shift to a market that to me makes sense again. And I'm looking at cap rates, I'm looking at cash flow, I'm looking at cash on cash return.
Right.
And I'm looking at price per unit. So besides the market trends of growth and vacancy rates and some of this other things, so picked a market, spent about 2 months doing due diligence on that market, understanding. I go through a similar process. I talk to everybody that I know that's investing in that market. I want to understand. I reach out to commercial brokers and I talk to them. I talk to lawyers. I talk to just the team overall, like getting the word out there. And then I jumped in. We put something under contract, the 7 units. We do partner with people, which is, was part of my original why, was not just to have enough for myself, but to really overlap onto the people around me. So now we're able to offer this opportunity for others to invest with us and also experience wealth growth and life-changing type of legacy wealth as well, which is very exciting to me. So we brought in partners, financial partners on the 7 units with us, and completed a burr. We're just finalizing refinance right now, and it went really, really well. We're very happy with how it went.
Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So again, the multifamily space, especially when you're looking at 7 units and up, it's a different strategy. It's a game changer. And what I really want to emphasize here, and especially for our viewers, and again, guys, remember, please leave your comments. If you have an opinion, share it. But what I really want to pick out from what Adriana was talking about there, she talked to everybody she could think about in that space before she decided, yep, I'm going to go into that. Self-education, validating what you're doing, gaining knowledge, aligning yourself to other successful people before you made that jump. I mean, that's one of the most cost-effective way of learning about a business and then jumping into it. So I just wanted to bring that out for people to understand. So the 7plex, you did the burr, you've got it there. Now you're in the position of refinancing and you're really happy. So I guess, as they say, you got the bug. So are you still looking to grow into that space, or where are you with regards to multifamily?
Yeah, we did scale quite quickly after that. After we had the first one, our second building was a 24 units that we closed on last year. So that was extremely exciting. At the end of last year, we purchased a 6 units sitting on 2.5 acres of land. And we have been going through the process of applying for development there. We started with some plans. We've had to adjust the plans since and developments, and it's a whole interesting and other topic for another day. But so that's what we've been working on. We're going back to the city, resubmitting to shift some of the units. It's been somewhere between 40 to 60 units we're going to be building in that land. So that's very exciting. And then we just closed on our latest project, was our 50 units portfolio that we just closed on last month.
Did you say 15 or 50?
50, 50, yes.
Oh my goodness, congratulations.
Thank you.
That is an accomplishment. You know what? And it doesn't come easy. It comes from a lot of hard work and perseverance. Honestly, congratulations. And for our viewers as well, I want you to understand the journey here. Not knowing, educate myself, jumped into different strategies to get going, taking action, really important. Realizing this is probably not the right strategy, but I made money anyways. Now I redeploy that money into a different strategy. It sounds to me like you're having fun in this particular space now.
I love it. I am really, it has been a lot of work, so I don't want that ever to get forgotten. Yes. I do get comments from people that say you make it look so easy, and it's easy because I love it and I choose to live my life in a holistic way that I am having fun, and I'm like trying to stay healthy and positive throughout everything that I'm going through. But it's been a ton of work and a ton of challenging myself and getting myself out of my comfort zone and pushing myself to limits that I don't even know that I could reach, but I believe I can, and then you go for it anyway. So I love the strategy. Multifamily is a very different type of investment than residential. I love what it does. I love the scale that it has provided. I feel like I've achieved my goal of like, hey, how do I scale but do less uh, with multifamily, because it's a bigger pie. I can also have more partners involved, which takes care of a lot of that work. So I'm able to focus on 2, 3 items that I'm really good at, and I can provide a lot of value and partner with people that, have different skill sets that they provide a lot of value in their way. And we're
Yes.
able to scale much quicker without feeling heavier than if I was just doing residential. This feels lighter than when I was doing residential.
Oh, very interesting. And I guess because again, with the scale that you're operating at, you need a full team of people. It's no longer the one-man team, right? So property managers, maybe we can chat a little bit about how do you work with regards to that? Are you hiring property managers now for each building, or is it one big company? Like, what's some of the tips or secrets that you're using for that?
So first of all, I have zero secrets. People say like, tell me your secrets. I'm like, I have secrets. So, I'll tell you anything you want to know. It's been a process of evolution, ultimately, just like anything. I learn something new every day. I never feel like I've arrived and this is it. I feel like, hey, I've gotten this far. How do I do even better, or how do I get even more clarity, or how do I like improve it even more? So it's forever an evolution. And from my time in the multifamily space, what my business looks like, it's been evolving. Something that I really been talking about it a lot lately is buying an apartment building is buying a business. That is what you're doing at that time. You're buying an asset that needs to be operated and run as a business. I think a lot of people have this assumption that even on the residential side, they have this assumption that, hey, if I have a property management in place, I'm good. All I need to do is receive the checks in the mail or whatever, the money in my bank account. And that is
So
the
true.
furthest thing from the truth, because property management doesn't run the business for you. They do a very small portion of what your business needs, which is, looking after the tenants on the day in, day out. They're also at a technician level. There's somebody that needs to be managing them and making sure they're doing their job correctly as well. So we started with hiring property management companies for our buildings. I still have one of our buildings has a property management company there with development. What we ended up doing, though, after operating these buildings for a while, was bringing property management in-house. And my business partner is the one that runs that, and he's formulated his company that manages now our buildings. That's given us huge advantage to how we operate, and then making sure we're keeping with our targets and operations the way we want them to be run.
Oh, brilliant. So that is very insightful, because to your point, you're right. People have a lot of misconceptions about how it actually works. Because a lot of people find multifamily is a sexy term now, and everybody's just jumping into the space and they don't really know what they're getting into, right? It's very different from residential. You got to learn a few things for sure. Property management, while it's important, it's not everything. And some people get the impression that I just hire the managers, we're good to go. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes if you're doing with different buildings, maybe you have superintendents in every building, right? So somebody's got to manage the managers, so to speak, to your point, right? Because, with these buildings, it is a business. It's an operating entity. You can't afford to drop the ball, because your cash flow could get eroded quite quickly. Again, everybody's on a margin basis, right? Most of the markets are rent controlled. So you don't have the luxury of saying, hey, you know what? My inflation rate, my cost of living, my expenditures, my property taxes went up 10%. You can only raise 1 to 2% rent. So big disparities. That's why you always have to have your A game in the real estate space for multifamily. So I'm glad that you're kind of giving us that insight based on your experiences. So for many of you out there as well, it's exactly what Adriana is saying. She went and she spoke to a whole bunch of people to figure out what to do. Today, she's sharing that insights with us. And again, thank you so much for giving us that insights, Adriana. So give us a sense of, okay, so you've done the 50 unit building. What's next?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do have another, for the 50 units, we are still finalizing, we're still bringing some partners in for our construction phase. So that's still ongoing. We're in the thick of right now, meeting with the construction company, getting layouts finalized for the units. We're looking at materials. We're doing energy efficiency consultations. So we're in the thick of project managing that right now, which has been an exciting process as well. We do have a 33 unit portfolio under contract right now, and which is nearby. And then this morning, we just got hold of a couple of other buildings besides our 50 units that we're looking into as well. So what's next is we're doing something that's working out. And this is another tip I love to leave with your viewers as well, that I've experienced even when we were doing the residential space.
Yes.
And I feel like sometimes people miss, which is zoom into an area. I think the moment we tend to be, I talk to a lot of investors that are really spread out. They're like, I'm looking into multifamily. I'm like, what have you looked into it lately? I looked at a building in Saskatchewan, and then I looked at one in Alberta, and then I had a meeting with a realtor from BC. I'm like, I understand if you're just getting started and you're trying to decide which market.
Right.
I would suggest zoom into a market first. And here's why. Knowledge compounds, connections compound. Your time in that market, in that space will compound, and it will become easier and easier. When you first started, nobody knew who I was when we started buying this market. Like they don't know me. At this point in stage, I get emails from sellers, from realtors, from because we've closed on a few buildings, and they're like, hey, I know you're buying, like you're closing on things. We see you operating. We're bringing also a lot of investment money into the city. So we meet with the city councilors, and we meet with deputy mayors, and we have a bigger influence on what's happening as well. But the best thing of it all is we build a team out there. And so things are set in motion, and there's momentum that grows, and it compounds over time. So I do think diversity of markets is important, but I think that if you pick a market, get comfortable with it, build your team, build your information basis too. Because now I see a building in that market, I'm like, yes, I know it works, or I know it doesn't, because we already have buildings. I know what the vacancy rates are like. I know the profiles of tenants. I know what the renovation company I'm going to call. I know the garbage company. I know, like we have it all set up now by focusing in one area.
No, that's a brilliant tip. Absolutely. Because yes, I 100% agree. When you're looking or you're starting out in this journey, you feel, okay, let me get in touch with 10 real estate agents, let them send me 10 sets of emails. That's a full-time job in itself to just review those listings, because nobody's doing it for you, right? And then, as you rightly said, if you do focus on one market, again, to your diversification model, you can buy several buildings in an area and become a mainstay in that space, and then later branch out, because again, diversification doesn't mean one building per market or one property per market, right? It means that you're strategically, maybe I'm 50% invested in a particular town, and I'm 20% in another one, and maybe I'm 5% as you grow. But that's a very insightful sharing, because a lot of people have not really discussed that. And a lot of people, they're not sure what does diversification actually mean and when should I trigger it. So, that's brilliant, because you're right. At the end of the day, if you become known in a particular market, look, there are thousands and thousands, if not millions of buildings, depending on where you are. When I say buildings, I'm talking single family home all the way up to the 50 unit, the 100 units, whatever is your space, there's a building there, right? You just got to be able to crunch the numbers. And I think to your point, you said it earlier on, your number crunching before you even decide to move ahead, right?
I guess the biggest reason also, like I started doing this on a seller's market and I did not have time to like think about it. Like
That's true.
I needed to
Yes.
like be able to make a quick
Yeah.
decision. And we
Yeah.
started from the moment I started, we've been in the seller's market. So I'm excited about this buying opportunity that for the first time I'm really experiencing now and having different conversations. But for the longest time, we were in a seller's market. So I needed to be able to make a quick decision when a property came on or when I
Mhm.
got sent something. And I learned that from my residential time when we were doing the residential space. We bought three out of our five like burrs were in like within a block radius of each other because we're like, hey, I know this market, I know what I can rent for, I know the area, I'm comfortable with it, I already know where everything is. So it really gives you that much more advantage being able to operate that way and have the numbers and the scale in one area.
Beautiful, absolutely. And that is again key insights. So for the viewers here, remember guys, it's all strategic in when you're making these decisions. Numbers are great to understand, but now you're developing relationships with other sellers, with your tradespeople, people know you, and then with regards to movement around, well, nobody's having to take a day trip to go to their next property, right? So they're happy to circulate in this area and they're happy to do that because if you have, I don't know, let's say 50,000 units in a particular town and you only have 100 or two, ratio wise, very small piece of the market and very manageable, right?
That's right.
So for our viewers as well, I mean, if I'm coming into the space, I guess one of my questions was, well, what really would be a good strategy for me? Like, what are some of the insights that you might have gained in terms of trying to figure it out for yourself? I think one of it, I think you say, is basically jumping in and actually doing it to realize what's involved, right? But what if I'm trying to figure it out, what are some of the tips that Adriana would have done to figure out her move before she got to this level?
Yeah, so great question. If I'm telling you how I've done it, I can share my experience, but ultimately I started with education again. If you
Mhm.
have never bought multifamily and you think, hey, this may be something I'm interested in doing, the very first step is reach out to somebody that owns multifamily and operates it right now and get some quick key questions in place. If you have a lot of clarity on what is it that what is it that you want out of multifamily? Hey, I want to start investing in multifamily, but why? I want cash flow. I want time freedom. I want legacy wealth. What is your reason for getting to the multifamily space? The more clarity you have on that, the more specific questions you can ask that person and see if that fits within what you're actually trying to do. Because I do get a lot of people that contact me, and I'm glad they do, and they're asking those questions. And some of their question is, hey, I want to retire, but I also want to become a managing partner buying apartment buildings. I'm like, those two things don't go hand in hand, unfortunately, because you're starting a brand new business where you don't know much about yet. So you're going to have to do a ton of work and time and education to get yourself set up. And yet you're wanting to retire. So unfortunately, those are, different strategies here to get, you're not going to get to your goal that way. So maybe you want to consider more passive strategies of investing if that's your goal. Now, hey, I want to like build wealth. I'm ready to work. I want to start a business buying multifamily buildings and operating them. That's a different conversation. If that's what you're looking to do, then I'd start with some education. If you don't know what you're doing, start with some education, get a coach in the industry that has done this before that can help you through the steps to get you started. That's going to jump you light years ahead of like trying to figure out every single little thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes people don't want to invest money in themselves. And I just did a post recently about that because and sometimes I lose that too. Like sometimes my mind gets cluttered and I have to remind myself again, like, hey, I am my greatest investment. If I'm investing in myself, in knowledge, in confidence, in the network, in everything that comes with, paying for proximity, paying to be part of a network, paying to be, to have a coach that's going to show you the way. That gets you further ahead than anything else. So being able to seek that. And then the moment you have that in place, you've figured out, hey, what I want out of getting multifamily will actually provide that to me, because I've spoken with people, they say, yes, that's probably the right thing. That's why you should be following this path. Get some education, get a coach. Once you have that in place, now jump in, put an offer on something, choose a market, put an offer on something, and that will be your greatest learning experience right there.
Absolutely. That is absolutely brilliant. I mean, with advice like that from people like yourself who's doing it now, guys, just replicate. At the end of the day, there's so much knowledge, there's so much power, because our community is small, right? When you look at the bigger population of North America, like, with just this in front of it, right? So people like yourself sharing your knowledge, sharing your opportunities, and also being able to work with you, invest with you, I think that is absolutely key for us all to pull each other up and to be successful as a community, right? So I guess, we could probably, talk a little bit about Brazil. Are you planning to go back home and check real estate out? Like, are you looking to be international, or North America is the space to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought about it on and off over the years, to be honest. I feel like next time I go back, I will definitely check out some real estate. I do that everywhere I go nowadays. It's hard not to. I don't love the Airbnb space though. So I know a lot of people like it a lot. It's pretty popular right now. It's not my favorite strategy or strategy of choice. So I'd have to operate it a little differently if I were to get something out there.
Beautiful. Absolutely. And again, important to understand everybody's strategy is going to be different. As I often tell my students that I work with, it's like, every strategy works, but it doesn't work for everybody, right? You got to find yours. So,
Agreed.
yeah. So, and once again, Adriana, thank you so much for coming on today and giving us so much insight and so much knowledge. Like, this is absolutely brilliant what we're doing here, what you're sharing here. I'm sure our viewers are going to find it valuable. And guys, if you have a comment, if you have an opinion, if you have a question, please leave it in the comments below. We'd love to engage. We will get back to you on any questions that you have. If you want to connect with Adriana, I'm going to leave her contact information in the description and the comments, so you can have access to Adriana as well. And, and then it's really to go from there. So Adriana, I mean, we're going to come to a close as well. Is there any sort of final thoughts that you'd like to leave with the viewers of the Pineapple Podcast?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in this room and you're listening, you're seeking, like you're already on your way in your journey to figure these things out, this is the right place. Places like this with Mitch and people that are adding so much value to the community to come in, listen, learn. The people that you do connect with these podcasts, reach out to them and build that relationship as well, and increase your network. I think that's definitely where you should spend most of your time.
Thank you very much, Adriana. And once again, to our viewers, wishing you all great successes in your financial freedom journey. Take care, everybody. Bye.